You don't lack confidence. You lack inner authority. You hesitate because you're waiting for permission. You doubt because you're outsourcing your decisions. You stall because you don't trust your own command. This audiobook is about reclaiming the one power no one can give you and no one can take away. When you build inner authority, you stop explaining yourself. You stop reacting. You stop seeking approval. You move first. You decide once, and the world adjusts. Listen closely, because by the end of this audiobook, you will no longer ask who's in charge. You'll know.
Indecision is not thoughtfulness. It's fear wearing logic. Most people don't struggle because they lack information. They struggle because they refuse to decide. They gather opinions, they wait for signs, they ask again and again, and every time they ask, they weaken themselves. You have a choice. You can keep asking, or you can start deciding. That's the key. Decisions create clarity. Hesitation creates noise. Look closely at your life right now. Every area where you feel stuck, frustrated, or powerless can be traced back to one thing: a delayed decision. You didn't choose, so life chose for you. You don't drift into strength. You decide into it. Powerful people are not more intelligent than you. They are not more gifted than you. They are faster to commit. They decide with imperfect information. They move while others analyze. They correct later. That's the key. You've been taught the lie that waiting makes you wise. It doesn't. Waiting makes you timid. Fear loves meetings. Fear loves discussions. Fear loves one more opinion. Action terrifies fear. You have a choice. Every time you say, "Let me think about it," ask yourself the real question: am I thinking or am I avoiding responsibility? Because when you decide, you take ownership, and ownership is heavy. Most people don't fear failure, they fear ownership. If it works, it's on them. If it fails, it's on them. So they delay, they ask, they outsource. You don't need their permission. Let this sink in. No one is coming to approve your life. No committee will arrive to validate your next move. No perfect moment is forming in the future. There is only now, and there is only choice. That's the key. Indecision feels safe because it postpones risk, but it quietly compounds regret. Every day you don't decide, you train your mind to hesitate. You condition yourself to doubt your own judgment. You become someone who waits, and people who wait are led by people who decide. It's not about intelligence. It's not about confidence. It's about discipline. It's not about knowing more. It's about choosing sooner. You have a choice. Decide small things quickly. What time you wake up, what you eat, what you say yes to, what you say no to. These are not small decisions. They are identity votes. Every decision tells your nervous system who's in charge, and right now, hesitation is running the show. That's the key. Notice how decisive people move. They don't announce it, they don't dramatize it. They choose, then they move forward as if the choice is done. No emotional debate, no internal argument. Certainty is practiced, not discovered. You don't wake up one day confident. You train confidence by deciding even when your hands shake. You have a choice. Here's the real cost of asking too much. Every time you ask someone what you should do, you're telling your mind, "I don't trust myself." Say that enough times and your mind believes it. Then, when it's time to act alone, you freeze. That's the trap. You don't need more advice. You need more self-trust. And self-trust is built by deciding and living with the outcome. That's the key. Let's be clear. Decisive people are not always right, but they are always moving. Indecisive people wait to be right and end up stuck. Progress beats perfection. Movement beats meditation. You can correct a bad decision. You can't correct a decision you never made. You have a choice. Stop asking questions you already know the answer to. Stop polling people who don't live your life. Stop delaying action under the mask of preparation. Preparation without execution is procrastination. Say it again. Preparation without execution is procrastination. That's the key. From today forward, you will follow one rule. When faced with a decision, give yourself a deadline. Not tomorrow, not next week. Minutes, hours. Decide, then commit fully. No emotional backtracking, no second guessing. If the result teaches you something, good. That means you're learning. If the result rewards you, even better. Either way, you win. You have a choice. Your inner authority begins the moment you stop asking outside voices to validate inside instincts. You don't need their permission. You need your own command. Say this to yourself. I decide. I move. I adjust. That's the mindset. That's the muscle. That's the foundation of inner authority. Because the person who decides controls direction, and direction controls destiny. Decisions create clarity. Hesitation creates noise. Remember it. Live it. You didn't master decisiveness to feel powerful. You did it to become responsible. And responsibility is the first form of authority. You chose to stop asking. You chose to decide. Now, let's talk about how authority is felt before it's ever spoken.
People feel you before they hear you. Long before your words land, your presence has already spoken. Your posture, your pace, your silence. Authority is not something you declare. It's something you project. That's the key. Most people try to sound confident. They rehearse words, they polish explanations, they raise their volume. And still, they're ignored. Because authority is not in the mouth, it's in the body. You have a choice. You can perform confidence, or you can embody it. You don't announce authority, you embody it. Watch a truly powerful person walk into a room. They don't rush. They don't scan faces for approval. They don't fill silence. They arrive, and the room adjusts. That's not luck. That's discipline. It's not about charisma. It's not about dominance. It's about control. It's not about being loud. It's about being grounded. That's the key. Your body tells the truth before your words get a chance to lie. If your shoulders collapse, people feel uncertainty. If your movements are rushed, people feel anxiety. If your voice climbs at the end of sentences, people feel doubt. You don't need their permission to slow down. You don't need their permission to take space. Authority is taken quietly. You have a choice. Right now, your nervous system is broadcasting your inner state, whether you like it or not, and people respond to that broadcast. That's why over-explaining never works. That's why trying harder backfires. That's why chasing respect repels it. You can't convince people you're solid. You have to be solid. That's the key. Let's talk about posture. Not appearance, not style. Posture. A straight spine tells the world, I'm stable. A relaxed chest says, I'm not threatened. Still hands say, I don't need to prove anything. This is not about looks. It's about signals. It's not about confidence. It's about discipline. You have a choice. You can slouch into conversations like you're asking for space, or you can stand like you belong there. No apology, no tension. That's embodiment. Now let's talk about pace. Speed is insecurity. Rushing is a tale. When you move fast, you're saying, I'm afraid to be interrupted. When you speak fast, you're saying, please keep up with me. When you rush decisions, you're saying, I'm uncomfortable here. Slow is power. Slow movements, slow steps, measured speech. That's the key. Powerful people are never in a hurry to be understood. They know something you don't. If they're solid, others will lean in. You don't need their permission to slow down. You don't need their permission to pause. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. You have a choice. Most people panic in silence. They rush to fill it. They add words. They add noise. And in doing so, they give away authority. Silence forces the other person to reveal themselves. Silence creates tension, and tension creates leverage. That's the key. Next time you're in a conversation, try this. Say less, then stop. Hold eye contact. Breathe. Wait. Watch what happens. The other person will speak. They'll explain. They'll justify. Because silence demands response. That's embodiment. Authority is felt in what you don't say. Now let's talk about energy. You don't need to be intense. You need to be contained. Uncontained energy is chaos. Contained energy is leadership. It's not about excitement. It's about restraint. You have a choice. You can spill your energy everywhere, or you can conserve it. People trust calm energy. They follow it. That's why leaders stay composed under pressure. Not because they don't feel stress, but because they don't broadcast it. It's not about emotion, it's about regulation. That's the key. Here's a hard truth. If you need to tell people you're confident, you're not. If you need to say you're in control, you're not. If you need to announce authority, you've already lost it. You don't announce authority, you embody it. Say it again. You don't announce authority, you embody it. Authority lives in consistency. The way you walk when no one's watching. The way you listen without interrupting. The way you hold still when others fidget. That's where trust is born. You have a choice. Today, start practicing embodiment. Stand fully when you stand. Sit still when you sit. Speak clearly or not at all. Remove filler words. Remove rushed movements. Remove nervous gestures. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness. That's the key. You don't need to dominate rooms. You need to anchor them. Presence is gravity, and gravity doesn't shout, it pulls. Remember this. People follow the most regulated nervous system in the room. Be that system. Because once you decide internally, your body must align externally. Inner authority is useless if your presence contradicts it. You stopped asking, you learned to decide. Now you must learn to embody those decisions. Because authority isn't heard first, it's felt. And once it's felt, words become unnecessary. You've aligned your mind. Now it's time to remove the habit that destroys embodiment faster than anything else.
Every time you seek approval, you surrender leverage. Let that land. Every glance for confirmation, every pause waiting for agreement, every question that starts with, "Do you think it's okay if you hand over power?" That's the key. Validation feels harmless. It feels polite. It feels social. But underneath, it's dependence. And dependence bends the spine. You have a choice. You can live from inner authority, or you can live from borrowed confidence. There's no middle ground. External validation trains internal weakness. Say it again. External validation trains internal weakness. The more you look outward for approval, the less your inner voice matters. The less your inner voice matters, the quieter it becomes, and eventually it disappears. Then you panic, because when no one is around to approve you, you don't know what to do. That's the trap. What you ask permission for, you give power over. Every single time. You don't need their permission. Most people don't realize this, but approval seeking is not about kindness, it's about fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being wrong, fear of standing alone. So they ask, they check, they pull, and slowly their spine softens. That's the key. Strong people are not reckless, they are rooted. They consult when necessary, but they don't need agreement to move. There's a difference. It's not about arrogance, it's about ownership. It's not about ignoring feedback, it's about not outsourcing identity. You have a choice. Here's how validation weakens you in real life. You hesitate to speak until you know the room agrees. You soften your words so no one feels uncomfortable. You change your stance based on reactions. And soon, you're no longer leading, you're adjusting, you're reacting. And reaction is the opposite of authority. That's the key. Approval addiction turns you into a mirror. You reflect others instead of projecting yourself. And mirrors don't lead, they follow. Ask yourself this: how many decisions have you delayed just to avoid disapproval? How many truths have you swallowed to keep peace? How many times have you known what to do but waited for permission? Be honest, because awareness is the first break in the chain. You have a choice. Here's the harsh truth. If you need approval, you're not free. If you're not free, you're not powerful. And if you're not powerful, you're easily controlled. That's not opinion, that's reality. People sense approval seekers immediately, predators especially. They push, they test, they manipulate. Because they know one thing: someone who needs approval will compromise themselves to get it. What you ask permission for, you give power over. Remember that. Now let's dismantle the excuse. But I just want to be liked. No. You want to be safe. Because being liked feels like protection. But it's fragile protection. Approval can be withdrawn at any moment. One disagreement, one boundary, one firm decision, and suddenly you're alone. That's the key. Respect is stable. Approval is not. Respect comes from consistency. Approval comes from compliance. You don't need their permission to be respected. Respect yourself first. That's where it begins. Here's a simple rule. If you already know what you're going to do, stop asking. Stop saying, "What do you think?" when you've already decided. That's manipulation disguised as humility, and your nervous system knows it. You have a choice. Instead, say this: "I've decided." Say it calmly, say it once, then stop talking. No defense, no justification, silence. That's the key. Notice what happens when you do this. Some people will resist, some will question, some will push back. Good. That's the test. Authority is forged in resistance. If everyone agrees with you, you're not leading, you're blending. It's not about being liked, it's about being aligned. Say it. It's not about being liked, it's about being aligned. Alignment creates strength. Strength creates respect. Approval just creates dependency. You have a choice. Let's talk about boundaries. Approval seekers struggle with boundaries because boundaries risk disapproval. So they say yes when they mean no. They overextend. They resent silently. And resentment poisons authority. Strong people disappoint others early to avoid disappointing themselves later. That's the key. When you set a boundary, you might lose approval, but you gain self-respect. And self-respect is non-negotiable. You don't need their permission to protect your energy. You don't need their permission to say no. You don't need their permission to choose yourself. What you ask permission for, you give power over. Burn that into your mind. Now let's dismantle the discipline. For the next week, stop explaining your decisions. No speeches, no emotional essays, just statements. I'm not available. I've decided to do this. That doesn't work for me. Then silence. That's it. It will feel uncomfortable. That's normal. Discomfort is the withdrawal symptom of approval addiction. Stay with it. That's the key. Your spine strengthens every time you stand without applause. Your authority grows every time you choose alignment over acceptance. And something powerful happens. People stop testing you. They stop pushing. They adjust. Because they feel something different. Stability. You are no longer asking who you're allowed to be.
you're deciding. You have a choice. Either live bent, approved, and quiet, or live upright, grounded, and steady. Inner authority cannot coexist with approval addiction. One must go. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. Now you must remove the reflex that gives it away, because authority collapses the moment you start chasing validation. And next, we address the habit that exposes insecurity faster than anything else.
Talking too much signals insecurity. Read that again. Talking too much signals insecurity. Not confidence, not clarity, insecurity. The need to explain, the urge to fill space, the discomfort with quiet. All of it points to the same thing: a lack of inner authority. That's the key. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure, and pressure reveals truth. The calmest person controls the room. Say it. The calmest person controls the room. You have a choice. You can talk to manage anxiety, or you can stay silent and manage power. Most people talk because they're afraid of how silence feels. They think silence means they're losing. They think silence means they're weak. They're wrong. Silence is command. Watch negotiations, watch leaders, watch anyone who actually holds leverage. They speak, then they stop. They don't chase responses. They don't rescue conversations. They let silence work. That's the key. Talking is often a reflex, not a strategy. You talk to be understood. You talk to be liked. You talk to reduce tension. But every unnecessary word weakens your position. It's not about communication. It's about discipline. You have a choice. If you talk less, people listen more. If you pause longer, people reveal more. Silence forces others to fill the gap, and when they do, they expose their intentions, their insecurities, their needs. That's power. That's the key. Here's the hard truth. People who overtalk are trying to control perception. People who stay silent are controlling reality. Silence communicates certainty. Silence communicates patience. Silence communicates strength. You don't need their permission to be quiet. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their permission to let moments breathe. Most people panic in silence. Their nervous systems spike. They rush to say something, anything. And in that rush, they give away leverage. You have a choice. Let's talk about meetings. When you speak first, you reveal position. When you speak last, you shape outcome. Speak less, listen more. Then when you do speak, your words land heavier. That's the key. Silence is not passive. Silence is active restraint. It's not about being mysterious. It's about being intentional. Here's where most people sabotage themselves. They explain decisions they don't need to explain. They justify boundaries they already set. They soften statements that were already clear. Why? Because silence feels risky. But here's the truth. Silence only feels risky when you're unsure. When you're grounded, silence feels natural. It's not about confidence. It's about self-trust. That's the key. Practice this. Say what needs to be said, then stop. No add-ons, no nervous laughter, no over-clarification. Let silence sit. Watch what happens. The other person will respond. They'll clarify themselves. They'll negotiate against their own interests. Silence does the work for you. You have a choice. Here's a rule to live by. If you've made your point, stop talking. Every extra word is a leak, and leaks drain authority. The calmest person controls the room. Remember that. Control is not aggression. Control is containment. People trust those who can contain themselves. If you can't sit in silence, you can't lead. That's the key. Let's talk about emotional moments. When someone provokes you, silence is dominance. Not ignoring, not avoidance, stillness. You don't react, you don't defend, you don't explain. You pause. That pause communicates more than any argument ever could. It says, I'm not moved. That's authority. You don't need their permission to not react. You don't need their permission to stay calm. Silence keeps you in control of yourself, and whoever controls themselves controls the situation. That's the key.
Now, discipline. Silence is a muscle. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Your body wants to speak. Your mind wants to fill space. Don't. Breathe. Stay still. Hold eye contact. This is training. It's not about being rude. It's about being grounded. You have a choice. Replace nervous talking with presence. Replace explanations with pauses. Replace reactions with restraint. And notice what changes. People lean in. People listen. People adjust. Because silence recalibrates power. The calmest person controls the room. Say it again. The calmest person controls the room. Inner authority grows when your words become rare and deliberate. Silence sharpens meaning. When you finally speak, it matters. That's the key. But silence alone is not enough. You must also control what happens inside you. Because silence without emotional control is just suppression, and suppression leaks. So next, we address the discipline that protects silence from collapsing under pressure. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. You've learned to stop chasing validation. You've learned to command with silence. Now it's time to master what threatens all of it.
Talking too much signals insecurity. Read that again. Talking too much signals insecurity. Not confidence, not clarity, insecurity. The need to explain, the urge to fill space, the discomfort with quiet. All of it points to the same thing, a lack of inner authority. That's the key. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure, and pressure reveals truth. The calmest person controls the room. Say it. The calmest person controls the room. You have a choice. You can talk to manage anxiety, or you can stay silent and manage power. Most people talk because they're afraid of how silence feels. They think silence means they're losing. They think silence means they're weak. They're wrong. Silence is command. Watch negotiations, watch leaders, watch anyone who actually holds leverage. They speak, then they stop. They don't chase responses. They don't rescue conversations. They let silence work. That's the key. Talking is often a reflex, not a strategy. You talk to be understood. You talk to be liked. You talk to reduce tension. But every unnecessary word weakens your position. It's not about communication. It's about discipline. You have a choice. If you talk less, people listen more. If you pause longer, people reveal more. Silence forces others to fill the gap. And when they do, they expose their intentions, their insecurities, their needs. That's power. That's the key. Here's the hard truth. People who overtalk are trying to control perception. People who stay silent are controlling reality. Silence communicates certainty. Silence communicates patience. Silence communicates strength. You don't need their permission to be quiet. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their permission to let moments breathe. Most people panic in silence. Their nervous systems spike. They rush to say something, anything. And in that rush, they give away leverage. You have a choice. Let's talk about meetings. When you speak first, you reveal position. When you speak last, you shape outcome. Speak less. Listen more. Then, when you do speak, your words land heavier. That's the key. Silence is not passive. Silence is active restraint. It's not about being mysterious. It's about being intentional. Here's where most people sabotage themselves. They explain decisions they don't need to explain. They justify boundaries they already set. They soften statements that were already clear. Why? Because silence feels risky. But here's the truth. Silence only feels risky when you're unsure. When you're grounded, silence feels natural. It's not about confidence. It's about self-trust. That's the key. Practice this. Say what needs to be said, then stop.
No add-ons, no nervous laughter, no over-clarification. Let silence sit. Watch what happens. The other person will respond. They'll clarify themselves. They'll negotiate against their own interests. Silence does the work for you. You have a choice. Here's a rule to live by. If you've made your point, stop talking. Every extra word is a leak, and leaks drain authority. The calmest person controls the room. Remember that. Control is not aggression. Control is containment. People trust those who can contain themselves. If you can't sit in silence, you can't lead. That's the key. Let's talk about emotional moments. When someone provokes you, silence is dominance. Not ignoring, not avoidance. Stillness. You don't react. You don't defend. You don't explain. You pause. That pause communicates more than any argument ever could. It says, "I'm not moved." That's authority. You don't need their permission to not react. You don't need their permission to stay calm. Silence keeps you in control of yourself, and whoever controls themselves controls the situation. That's the key. Now, discipline. Silence is a muscle. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Your body wants to speak. Your mind wants to fill space. Don't. Breathe. Stay still. Hold eye contact. This is training. It's not about being rude, it's about being grounded. You have a choice. Replace nervous talking with presence. Replace explanations with pauses. Replace reactions with restraint. And notice what changes. People lean in. People listen. People adjust. Because silence recalibrates power. The calmest person controls the room. Say it again. The calmest person controls the room. Inner authority grows when your words become rare and deliberate. Silence sharpens meaning. When you finally speak, it matters. That's the key. But silence alone is not enough. You must also control what happens inside you. Because silence without emotional control is just suppression, and suppression leaks. So next, we address the discipline that protects silence from collapsing under pressure. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. You've learned to stop chasing validation. You've learned to command with silence. Now it's time to master what threatens all of it.
Over-explaining is self-betrayal. Read that again. Over-explaining is self-betrayal. Every extra sentence you add to justify yourself chips away at your authority. Every clarification you didn't need to give weakens your position. Every apology wrapped in logic tells the room you're unsure. That's the key. Your actions don't require footnotes. Authority moves, it doesn't annotate. You have a choice. You can state your decision and stand on it, or you can explain yourself into irrelevance. Explanation is a tax paid by the uncertain. Say it. Explanation is a tax paid by the uncertain. People who are grounded don't narrate their choices, they make them. People who doubt themselves feel compelled to convince others. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The more you explain, the less people trust you. Because explanation signals doubt. That's the key. Think about it. When someone is confident, they're brief. When someone is unsure, they're verbose. They add context, they add backstory, they add reasons. Not to help others, to soothe themselves. You don't need their permission to be concise. You don't need their permission to stop talking. You don't need their permission to let your decision stand. Over-explaining is fear disguised as politeness. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being disliked. Fear of being challenged. But authority doesn't fear challenge. Authority welcomes it and doesn't flinch. You have a choice. Here's where over-explaining really costs you. It invites debate. The moment you explain, you open the door for negotiation. You give people something to poke holes in. You turn a decision into a discussion. And discussions dilute authority. That's the key. A statement ends a conversation. An explanation extends it. If you want to lead, learn the difference. It's not about clarity, it's about discipline. Say it. It's not about clarity, it's about discipline. Clarity is achieved with fewer words, not more. Discipline is knowing when to stop. Now let's talk about boundaries. Over-explainers struggle with boundaries because boundaries feel harsh without justification. So they add reasons. I can't because, I would, but, I wish I could, however. Stop. You don't owe reasons for your limits. You don't need their permission to protect your time. You don't need their permission to say no. You don't need their permission to choose yourself. Explanation is a tax paid by the uncertain. Strong boundaries are simple. No. That doesn't work. I'm not available. Then silence. That's the key. Here's the fear that keeps people explaining. If I don't explain, they'll think I'm rude. Let them. Respect is more valuable than approval. You already learned that. People don't respect explanations, they respect consistency. And consistency requires restraint. You have a choice. Trade comfort for credibility. Now let's dismantle another excuse. I'm just being transparent. No. You're being exposed. Transparency without discretion is leakage. You don't show your internal process to everyone. You don't narrate uncertainty. You don't process out loud in public. That's not honesty, that's lack of containment. Authority contains. That's the key. Here's a practical rule. If your action already communicates your decision, say nothing. Let behavior speak. People who talk less force others to watch more. And behavior is louder than words. Your actions don't require footnotes. Remember that. Over-explaining also shows up emotionally. You defend how you feel. You justify reactions. You explain why something hurt you. Stop. State facts. Set boundaries. Move on. Emotion explained is emotion exposed. And exposed emotion becomes leverage. You have a choice. Contain yourself or be handled by others. Here's a drill. For the next week, cut your explanations in half. Say what you need to say, then stop. No qualifiers, no disclaimers, no emotional padding. Notice the discomfort. That discomfort is the old habit dying. That's the key. You'll notice something else too. People will ask fewer questions. They'll challenge you less. They'll adapt faster. Because certainty closes loops. Over-explanation keeps them open. Here's another hard truth. If someone doesn't respect your decision without an explanation, they won't respect it with one. Explanation doesn't create respect. Self-respect does. And self-respect is communicated through brevity. You don't need their permission to be brief. You don't need their permission to be firm. You don't need their permission to stop justifying your existence. Explanation is a tax paid by the uncertain. Pay it less. Now, balance. This is not about being cold. It's not about being dismissive. It's about being deliberate. Explain when it serves a purpose, not when it serves anxiety. There's a difference. That's the key. Leaders choose words like they choose moves, strategically, sparingly. They don't narrate every step. They don't defend every decision. They trust the process they chose. And trust is visible. You have a choice. From now on, let silence finish your sentences. Let posture reinforce your words. Let consistency do the convincing. Stop betraying yourself with unnecessary explanations.
Stand on your decisions. Because inner authority isn't loud, it isn't verbose, it isn't defensive. It's calm, it's brief, it's final. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. You've learned to stop chasing validation. You've learned to command with silence. You've learned emotional control. You've learned to stop explaining yourself. Now it's time to build the structure that keeps authority intact under pressure. Because without structure, power leaks.
Weak boundaries invite manipulation. Not sometimes, always. If you don't define the line, someone else will cross it. If you don't protect your time, someone else will spend it. If you don't guard your energy, someone else will drain it. That's the key. Clear limits eliminate confusion. Confusion creates testing. Testing creates disrespect. Boundaries stop the test. What you tolerate becomes your identity. Say it again. What you tolerate becomes your identity. You have a choice. You can live reactively, cleaning up messes you allowed, or you can live deliberately, preventing them in the first place. Boundaries are not walls. They are instructions. They tell people how to treat you. They tell the world what you accept and what you don't. And if you don't give instructions, people guess, and they usually guess wrong. That's the key. Most people don't struggle with boundaries because they don't know how. They struggle because they fear the consequences, disapproval, conflict, loss. So they stay silent, they tolerate, they adapt, and over time, they disappear. You don't need their permission to protect yourself. You don't need their permission to say no. You don't need their permission to draw a line. Weak boundaries don't make you kind. They make you available. Available to be used, available to be drained, available to be disrespected. You have a choice. Here's the truth most people avoid. People don't respect kindness without boundaries. They exploit it. Respect is built on consistency. When you say yes and mean yes, when you say no and mean no, inconsistency invites pressure. That's the key. Let's talk about tolerance. Every time you let something slide, you train others how to treat you. Every unaddressed behavior becomes precedent. What you tolerate becomes your identity. Not what you say, not what you believe, what you tolerate. That's the real mirror. You have a choice. Look at your life. Where do people show up late? Where do they overstep? Where do they demand more than they give? Those are boundary failures, not theirs, yours. Because boundaries unspoken don't exist. Clear limits eliminate confusion. Say it again. Clear limits eliminate confusion. Here's where people go wrong. They explain boundaries emotionally. They justify them. They apologize for them. Stop. Boundaries are not debates. They are declarations. You state them once, calmly, clearly, then you enforce. That's the key. Enforcement is where respect is built. Anyone can state a boundary. Few can hold one. If you don't enforce it, it's not a boundary, it's a suggestion. And suggestions invite negotiation. You have a choice. Be respected or be flexible. Now let's get practical. Here's how strong boundaries sound. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available for that. This is my limit. No explanation, no apology, no emotion. Silence after. That silence communicates certainty. You don't need their permission to stop talking. You don't need their permission to walk away. Here's another hard truth. People who push boundaries are not confused, they're testing. They want to see what you'll allow.
And every time you give in, you teach them to push harder next time. That's the key. Boundaries are tested at the beginning, respected in the middle, taken for granted at the end. If you fail the first test, you'll live with the consequences later. You have a choice. Let's talk about guilt. Guilt is the emotion that keeps boundaries weak. You feel bad saying no. You feel selfish. You feel rude. That guilt is learned, and it's used against you. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will call you difficult when you set them. Expect it. That's not a signal to stop. That's a signal you're doing it right. What you tolerate becomes your identity. Now let's talk about self-respect. Self-respect grows every time you enforce a boundary, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Discomfort is the cost of growth. That's the key. Here's the discipline. Pick one boundary you've been avoiding. One. Set it this week. State it once and force it calmly. No emotional follow-up. Notice what happens. Some people will adjust. Some will resist. Some may leave. Let them. Those who leave were never respecting you anyway. You don't need their permission to protect your standards. You don't need their permission to raise your expectations. Boundaries don't push away the right people. They reveal them. That's the key. Boundaries also protect your energy. Energy spent on drama is energy stolen from purpose. Strong boundaries create clean lives. Clean lives create focus. Focus creates power. Power creates authority. You have a choice. Live messy and reactive, or live clean and intentional. One erodes authority. The other builds it. Inner authority cannot exist in a boundaryless life, because without boundaries, you're always responding. And leaders don't respond to everything. They choose. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. You've learned to stop chasing validation. You've learned to command with silence. You've learned emotional control. You've learned to stop explaining yourself. You've learned to set boundaries. Now it's time to remove the final attachment that weakens them. Because boundaries collapse when you cling to outcomes.
Attachment creates anxiety. Notice that. Attachment creates anxiety. Every time you tie your self-worth to a result, you give away control. Every time you obsess over what must happen, you tighten a leash around yourself. Every time you beg an outcome, you weaken your performance. That's the key. Detachment creates power. Detachment frees your mind. Detachment frees your energy. Detachment frees your authority. You perform best when you don't beg outcomes. Say it again. You perform best when you don't beg outcomes. You have a choice. You can cling or you can release. You can live with the stress of needing validation from results, or you can act with discipline regardless of what happens next. Attachment is emotional dependence. You depend on the world to feel good. You depend on results to feel worthy. You depend on approval to feel competent. And when the world disappoints, which it always does, you suffer. That's the key. Detachment is emotional sovereignty. You act according to principle. You act according to strategy. You act according to discipline. Not according to fear. Not according to hope. Not according to what others expect. You have a choice. Most people confuse detachment with indifference. It's not indifference, it's intentionality. It's about performing fully without being hostage to the outcome. Think of athletes. They train relentlessly. They visualize success. They execute every step perfectly. And yet, they don't panic over the scoreboard. They don't cling to praise. They don't beg the results to match the effort. They detach. That's the key. When you're detached, pressure disappears. You can think clearly.
You can act decisively. You can respond rather than react. Attachment distorts perception. Detachment clarifies it. You have a choice. Let's talk about relationships. Many people attach to how others feel about them. They obsess over approval, affection, or recognition. They overgive, over-explain, and overcompensate. This is attachment. It's not love, it's dependency. Detachment allows you to love freely. Detachment allows you to contribute fully. Detachment allows you to exist without negotiation. That's the key. Here's the hard truth. You cannot control results. You cannot control recognition. You cannot control how people respond. What you can control is your action, your focus, your discipline. That's where power lives. You perform best when you don't beg outcomes. You have a choice. Here's the mental model. Separate effort from expectation. Separate intention from result. Separate action from approval. Do the work. Commit to the process. Release the outcome. That's discipline. Let's talk about fear. Attachment to outcomes breeds fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of loss. And fear drives poor decisions. Fear leads to overreaction. Fear leads to control-seeking behavior. Detachment neutralizes fear. When you act without attachment, the worst-case scenario doesn't paralyze you. When you act without attachment, mistakes become data, not shame. When you act without attachment, pressure becomes opportunity. That's the key. You have a choice. Every day, notice where you are begging outcomes. Are you worried about results at work? Are you anxious about reactions in a conversation? Are you desperate for approval in relationships? Those are the moments to detach. Detach not by ignoring responsibility. Detach by focusing on the process and controlling what you can. It's not about being careless, it's about being sovereign. That's the key. Here's a practical drill. Before any important action, ask yourself, am I attached to the result? If yes, pause. Refocus on execution. Release expectation. Repeat every day. This trains mental freedom. It strengthens your authority. It sharpens your performance. You have a choice. Remember this. Attachment is weakness. Detachment is power. Leaders act. They don't beg. They don't cling. They don't plead with outcomes. They act fully. They act deliberately. Then they release. That's the key. Now, here's the challenge. Detach without detaching from responsibility. Detach without detaching from effort. Detach without detaching from intention. Detach with mastery. Because the moment you merge discipline with detachment, pressure disappears. Clarity emerges. Authority solidifies. You perform best when you don't beg outcomes. Say it again. You perform best when you don't beg outcomes. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. You've learned to stop chasing validation. You've learned to command with silence. You've learned emotional control. You've learned to stop explaining yourself. You've learned to set boundaries. You've learned to detach from outcomes. Next, we take it one step further. Because authority isn't just about internal mastery. It's about projecting it outward, even under attack.
Calm unnerves chaos. Say it again. Calm unnerves chaos. In a world full of noise, panic, and overreaction, stillness is your weapon. Most people respond immediately. Most people escalate. Most people get dragged into drama. And when you don't, you gain power. Stillness exposes weakness in others. Watch carefully. When someone confronts you aggressively, most people flinch. Most people match energy with energy. Most people react. Not you. Still water reflects truth. Say it again. Still water reflects truth. Your calm doesn't mean you agree. It doesn't mean you surrender. It doesn't mean you lack authority. It means you're in control. It means you observe. It means you choose response over reflex. You have a choice. You can match chaos with chaos, or you can stay grounded and let the world reveal itself. The moment you resist reacting, you reclaim leverage. Here's the hard truth. People want to pull you into their storm because storms make them feel powerful. They push, provoke, and escalate. When you stay unreactive, they lose their rhythm. Their noise becomes obvious. Their manipulations become visible. That's the key. Presence is not passive. Presence is active. It's the difference between chaos-driven motion and deliberate influence. The calmest person in the room is the one everyone follows, because calm is contagious, because authority is infectious, because people orient themselves around unshakable energy. You don't need their permission to stay unreactive. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their permission to be still. Most people confuse unreactive presence with weakness. They think silence equals submission. They think patience equals passivity. They think observation equals indecision. Wrong. Still water reflects truth. Your energy communicates what words cannot. Your posture communicates what arguments cannot. Your silence communicates what explanations cannot. You have a choice. React like everyone else or operate from unshakable calm. Let me give you an example. Imagine a heated meeting. Voices are raised. People interrupt. Everyone is reacting to one another. You don't. You sit. You listen. You breathe. You let others reveal their position. Every impulsive speaker exposes their agenda, their insecurities, their weaknesses. Your calm allows them to do the work for you. That's power. That's the key. Here's another truth. Unreactive presence builds credibility faster than argument ever could. If someone challenges you and you respond with controlled clarity, your words carry weight. If someone attacks you and you remain composed, your authority is visible. If someone panics and you stay steady, your confidence becomes undeniable. You have a choice. Presence requires discipline. It's not natural for everyone. It's not a reflex. It's a trained skill. Start small. Pause before responding. Breathe before speaking. Hold your position without explaining. Even simple moments of unshakable calm accumulate into undeniable presence. That's the key. Here's where most people fail. They control behavior but not attention. They remain outwardly calm but internally reactive. They let inner chaos leak through subtle cues, tone, micro-expressions, tension. Calm must be both internal and external. Still water reflects truth. You have a choice. Internal control without external consistency is a lie. External calm without internal control is a mask. Both must exist for presence to be powerful. Let's talk about confrontation. Someone provokes you. Someone tries to push your boundaries. Someone seeks to destabilize. You remain unshakable. You observe, you measure, you respond deliberately or not at all. This isn't avoidance. This isn't passivity. This is mastery. That's the key. Unreactive presence also prevents escalation. When everyone is reacting, energy spikes. When you don't, the room recalibrates. The loudest voices often shrink under calm authority. The desperate energy becomes obvious. You have a choice. Chaos wants company. Authority thrives in isolation. Presence is also persuasive. People follow calm more readily than charisma. People trust composure over arguments. People respect restraint over emotion. Still water reflects truth. Here is a practical drill. In your next interaction, identify when you feel triggered. Pause, breathe, observe. Let your presence communicate more than words. Notice how others adjust. Notice how tension decreases. Notice how clarity emerges. You perform best when you control your energy first. Not words, not actions, energy. That's the key. You have a choice. React like everyone else or operate from unshakable calm. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. You've learned to stop chasing validation. You've learned to command with silence. You've learned emotional control. You've learned to stop explaining yourself. You've learned to set boundaries. You've learned to detach from outcomes. Now, amplify all of it by mastering the unreactive presence. Still water reflects truth. Calm unnerves chaos. Your presence is your authority, and authority is your inner power made visible. Next, we explore the ultimate refinement, how to merge discipline and action so that authority becomes unstoppable.
No crowd can give you self-command. Read that carefully. No crowd can give you self-command. Applause is temporary. Validation is fleeting. Approval is conditional. True authority doesn't come from others. It comes from you, alone. Solitude sharpens conviction. When you step away from the noise, the opinions, the constant pressure, you discover your real self. You hear your inner voice. You see your own values. You feel your own discipline. Authority is forged in silence, not applause. Say it again. Authority is forged in silence, not applause. You have a choice. You can seek comfort in the crowd, letting their opinions define your actions. Or you can stand alone, let silence challenge you, and sharpen your inner command. Most people fear being alone. They fill the void with chatter. They fill the void with distractions. They fill the void with validation seeking. But leaders embrace solitude, because solitude exposes weaknesses. Solitude builds clarity. Solitude produces discipline. That's the key. Authority is a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows under resistance. Being alone is resistance. Facing your thoughts without distraction is resistance. Confronting your fears in silence is resistance. You have a choice. Weak people run to the crowd. Strong people retreat to themselves. Now, let's be clear. Solitude is not loneliness. It is intentional isolation. It is purposeful reflection. It is disciplined practice. When you spend time alone, you remove outside influence. You remove the external applause. You remove the need for approval. And suddenly, your choices are yours. Your decisions are clear. Your boundaries become non-negotiable. Your focus sharpens. Authority is forged in silence, not applause. Here's where most people fail. They chase recognition. They chase validation. They chase signals of importance. And they mistake attention for authority. Attention is temporary. Authority is permanent. You have a choice. Seek approval or cultivate your inner command. Let's talk about testing. When you're alone, you test yourself. You see if you can stick to principles when no one is watching. You see if you can hold discipline without praise. You see if you can execute without confirmation. That's where real power is built. The crowd doesn't forge authority. Solitude does. The crowd celebrates only results. Solitude celebrates process. You perform in private. You reflect
in private, you sharpen in private, and when you act in public, the result is authority. You have a choice. Here's the principle. Consistency is the backbone of authority, and consistency comes from private practice. You can't maintain discipline when the crowd is clapping. You can't refine skill when you're performing for applause. You can't strengthen character when you're distracted by validation. Authority is forged in silence, not applause. Let's break it down. Spend time alone daily. Review your decisions, analyze your reactions, strengthen your discipline. Do not rationalize it, do not justify it, do not seek recognition. The crowd doesn't matter. What matters is the voice inside you. What matters is the standard you hold yourself to. What matters is the discipline you enforce in solitude. That's the key. Now let's talk about courage. It takes courage to be alone. It takes courage to trust yourself without validation. It takes courage to act when no one is watching. But that courage is magnetic. People sense it. People respect it. People follow it. Authority is forged in silence, not applause. You have a choice. Blend into the crowd or rise in your own quiet power. Here's a practical drill. Spend 1 hour alone each day. No phone, no distractions, no input. Reflect on your decisions, analyze your goals, challenge your excuses, strengthen your discipline. Observe what comes up: fear, doubt, temptation to seek approval. Face it, name it, release it. Repeat daily. Authority grows silently. Strength compounds. Confidence solidifies. You don't need the crowd to validate you. You don't need applause to confirm your worth. You don't need approval to assert your standards. Authority is forged in silence, not applause. Here's the final truth. The stronger your inner authority, the less noise affects you. The more discipline you practice alone, the more presence you command publicly. The more solitude you embrace, the less reactive you become. You have a choice. Follow the crowd or lead yourself. Step away, stand firm, sharpen your conviction, because no one can give you self-command. You must take it. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. You've learned to stop chasing validation. You've learned to command with silence. You've learned emotional control. You've learned to stop explaining yourself. You've learned to set boundaries. You've learned to detach from outcomes. You've learned the power of unreactive presence. Now, the final step. Combine everything: decision, discipline, silence, boundaries, detachment, and presence into unstoppable action.
Fear wants discussion, not action. Read that carefully. Fear wants discussion, not action. Every hesitation is fear talking. Every second spent rationalizing risk is fear negotiating with you. Every what if that paralyzes your decision is fear masquerading as prudence. That's the key. Action collapses fear instantly. When you move, fear loses its grip. When you act, uncertainty becomes clarity. When you perform, anxiety becomes fuel. Move first, fear follows. Say it again. Move first, fear follows. You have a choice. You can stall, you can debate endlessly, you can bargain with fear hoping it will be reasonable. Or you can act. Action doesn't need permission. Action doesn't wait for courage. Action doesn't negotiate. That's the key. Here's the truth most people refuse to face. Fear grows in idle minds. Fear grows when you wait for conditions to be perfect. Fear grows when you explain and justify instead of executing. Fear feeds on hesitation, and hesitation is a luxury you cannot afford. You have a choice. Most people negotiate with fear like it's a business partner. I'll do it if it seems safe. I'll start tomorrow if I feel ready. I'll speak up if the timing is right. All of these are fear's contracts, and the fine print is always your power. Move first, fear follows. Here's how it works in practice. Step 1. Recognize fear as a signal, not a barrier. Step 2. Identify the action that fear is trying to stop. Step 3. Do it immediately, before hesitation takes root. Fear cannot survive movement. It is a reactionary force. It is a phantom that vanishes when confronted. It is a shadow that disappears under the light of action. You have a choice: react to fear or master it. Let's examine the mechanics. Fear tells you stories. It exaggerates consequences. It magnifies risk. Action tells you truth. It exposes real obstacles. It clarifies capabilities. That's the key. The people you admire most are not fearless. They are disciplined actors in the presence of fear. They move first. They act decisively. They collapse fear before it can negotiate. You don't need their permission to act. You don't need certainty to act. You don't need reassurance to act. Move first. Fear follows. Here's a practical example. You hesitate to speak up in a meeting. Fear whispers, "What if they judge you? What if you look foolish?" You negotiate, "Maybe I'll wait, see how it unfolds." Stop. Act instead. Speak clearly, calmly, and with purpose. Notice what happens. Fear dissolves. Energy shifts. Authority rises. That's the key. Fear is a coward. It only holds power if you give it time. Take action and it flees. You have a choice. Some people mistake waiting for strategy. They say, "I need more information. I need the right plan. I need alignment." No. Analysis without action is procrastination. Strategy without movement is surrender. Planning without execution is submission. Move first. Fear follows. Here's a second truth. Fear often grows louder when you delay. It escalates, multiplies, and paralyzes. By waiting, you give it credibility. Action destroys credibility. Act now. Act before doubt convinces you to negotiate. Act before the mind rationalizes delay. That's the key. You have a choice. You can let fear run negotiations, or you can take the lead. The difference between ordinary people and those who command their lives is simple. Ordinary people negotiate with fear. Extraordinary people act despite it. Move first. Fear follows. Let's be specific. Fear tells you to avoid confrontation. Move anyway. Fear tells you to stay silent. Speak anyway. Fear tells you to quit. Persist anyway. Every time you act, you reclaim power. Every time you move, fear diminishes. Every time you refuse to negotiate, authority grows. That's the key. Here's the discipline. Next time fear whispers, pause, not to debate, but to decide. Identify the action. Perform it immediately. Do not rationalize. Do not explain. Do not bargain. Move first. Fear follows. You have a choice. This is the ultimate test of inner authority. When fear knocks, you act. When doubt whispers, you move. When uncertainty rises, you decide. Action becomes habit. Courage becomes reflex. Authority becomes undeniable. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. You've learned to stop chasing validation. You've learned to command with silence. You've learned to emotional control. You've learned to stop explaining yourself. You've learned to set boundaries. You've learned to detach from outcomes. You've learned the power of unreactive presence. You've learned to build authority in solitude.
Now you learn to act without hesitation, because hesitation is the final enemy. Move first, fear follows, and when you do, nothing can stop you.
Trust is built through kept promises to yourself. Every action you take or fail to take casts a vote for your integrity, a vote for your authority, a vote for the version of yourself you will become. Discipline compounds confidence. Every small act of self-control, every commitment honored, every boundary maintained adds to your inner strength. Every moment you follow through despite discomfort builds momentum. Every time you honor yourself, fear and doubt lose their weight. Every promise kept is a vote for authority. Every promise kept is a vote for authority. You have a choice. You can break promises. You can give in to shortcuts. You can excuse failure and delay. Or you can honor your commitments, no matter how small, no matter how inconvenient. That's the key. Here's the truth. People trust others who consistently trust themselves first. They follow those who keep their word internally before expecting loyalty externally. Authority starts from within, and self-trust is its foundation. You don't need external validation to confirm your value. You don't need applause to maintain your integrity. You don't need permission to honor your word. Every promise kept is a vote for authority. Now, let's break this down. Step 1. Identify the promises you make to yourself daily. Wake up early, complete your work, practice discipline, respect boundaries. Step 2. Keep them consistently. No excuses, no bargaining, no waiting for motivation. Step 3. Reinforce them with action. Repetition compounds trust. Consistency creates power. That's the key. Most people fail because they mistake intention for action. They plan, they talk, they aspire. But trust is built in execution. Discipline is demonstrated through doing, not dreaming. You have a choice. Choose action over excuse. Choose consistency over convenience. Choose to honor your word before seeking recognition. Here's a critical insight. Self-trust is a muscle. Like any muscle, it grows through resistance. It grows when you push yourself to do what you said you would, even when it's hard. It grows when you resist short-term comfort for long-term integrity. Every challenge faced and conquered strengthens it. Every temptation resisted reinforces it. Every small victory compounds into unshakable confidence. That's the key. Now let's examine consequences. Breaking promises to yourself has a hidden cost. It erodes confidence. It weakens resolve. It trains your mind to tolerate inconsistency. Every failure to follow through is a vote against authority. Every unkept commitment feeds doubt and external dependence. You have a choice. Reinforce self-trust or erode it. Act deliberately or drift endlessly. Build authority or give it away to circumstance. Let's talk about practical steps. Daily accountability. Track every promise you make to yourself. Immediate follow-through. Do it now, not later. Repetition. Commit to small wins consistently. They compound into massive results. That's the key. Here's a deeper truth. Confidence is not innate. It is forged. It is built in quiet repetition. It is strengthened in moments when no one else is watching. When you honor your word to yourself, you eliminate internal friction. When internal friction disappears, external obstacles feel smaller. When external obstacles feel smaller, action becomes effortless. You have a choice. Act with integrity or negotiate with weakness. Follow through or rationalize failure. Honor your word or surrender authority.
Self-trust creates clarity. Self-trust creates discipline. Self-trust creates presence. Every action you take, every commitment honored, every promise kept compounds into authority that cannot be shaken. Remember this: authority is not granted, it is earned in private. It is forged in solitude, in consistency, in the quiet choices no one sees. That's the key. Here's a final exercise. Make 3 promises to yourself today. No excuses, no negotiation. Keep them. Feel the compounding effect. Notice how confidence grows. Notice how fear diminishes. Notice how authority asserts itself quietly but undeniably. Every promise kept is a vote for authority. You have a choice. Honor yourself or depend on others. Trust yourself or live in doubt. Act deliberately or drift endlessly. Discipline is the currency of self-trust. Consistency is the mechanism. Authority is the result. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. You've learned to stop chasing validation. You've learned to command with silence. You've learned emotional control. You've learned to stop explaining yourself. You've learned to set boundaries. You've learned to detach from outcomes. You've learned the power of unreactive presence. You've learned to build authority in solitude. You've moved first, letting fear follow. Now, the final truth. Your self-trust is your fortress. Your inner authority is unshakable. Your disciplined action ensures that no external force can dictate your power. Every promise kept is a vote for authority. This is the principle that completes the transformation. You no longer need validation, permission, or approval. You only need your word, your discipline, and your relentless commitment to yourself. That's the key. And with that, your inner authority is complete. You are no longer reactive. You are decisive. You are unshakable. You are the master of your mind, your actions, and your destiny.
Rushed behavior signals inner chaos. Say it again. Rushed behavior signals inner chaos. Watch people who are always in a hurry. Notice the tension in their shoulders. Notice the hurried tone in their voices. Notice the flicker of impatience in their eyes. Everything about them screams lack of control. Everything about them tells the world they are reacting, not acting. Slowness projects control. Every deliberate step communicates confidence. Every measured word signals authority. Every pause demonstrates mastery over your environment, your mind, and your impulses. Speed is panic. Calm is power. Say it again. Speed is panic. Calm is power. You have a choice. You can rush, mimic urgency, and hope it convinces others you're important. Or you can slow down, command space, and let others chase your energy. That's the key. Here's the hard truth. People mistake movement for productivity. They mistake talking for leadership. They mistake noise for influence. Not you. You understand the power of stillness in motion. You understand the authority of measured speech. You understand the impact of deliberate pacing. Walk slower. Speak less. Move with intention. The world interprets slowness as confidence. Rushed behavior invites chaos into your space. Measured behavior projects mastery. Every step you take at your own pace is a declaration. I control my body. I control my mind. I control my energy. You have a choice. You can let your habits dictate your speed, or you can dictate your habits. Speed is panic. Calm is power. Here's a practical exercise. For one full day, walk slower than normal. Pause longer before answering questions. Speak only when you have purpose. Notice reactions. Notice respect.
Notice authority rising without you saying a single extra word. That's the key. Why does this work? Because people unconsciously mimic energy. If you rush, they rush. If you panic, they panic. If you are controlled, deliberate, and calm, the room slows. Slowness breeds presence. Presence breeds authority. Authority breeds influence. You don't need permission to slow down. You don't need permission to speak less. You don't need permission to act deliberately. Every hurried step signals insecurity. Every filler word signals weakness. Every rushed gesture signals dependence. Every deliberate step signals strength. Every measured word signals confidence. Every controlled gesture signals independence. You have a choice. Most people are moving fast because they are afraid. Fast walking, fast talking, fast thinking, it's all fear in motion. Stop, slow down, regain control. Speed is panic. Calm is power. Here's another truth. Slowness doesn't mean inactivity. Silence doesn't mean passivity. Deliberate movement doesn't mean hesitation. It means mastery. It means self-command. It means unshakable inner authority. You have a choice. You can conform to the pace of chaos, or you can set your own rhythm. When you walk slower, people notice. When you speak less, people listen. When you act deliberately, people respect. That's the key. Here's a drill to solidify this skill. Walk deliberately. Every step should feel intentional. Speak purposefully. Only words that matter leave your mouth. Pause before action. Create space to observe, measure, and assert control. Speed is panic. Calm is power. Notice the impact. Notice the way tension dissipates in others. Notice the way authority fills the room without effort. You have a choice. Hurry like everyone else or lead with measured calm. Let's examine social interactions. When someone confronts you aggressively, most people rush to respond. Most people stumble over words. Most people react impulsively. Not you. You slow down. You breathe. You respond deliberately. Every word carries weight. Every gesture commands attention. Every pause demonstrates control. Speed is panic. Calm is power. Here's the ultimate lesson. Control over your movement and speech is control over perception. Control over perception is control over influence. Control over influence is control over authority. You don't need to prove yourself through motion. You don't need to convince through chatter. You don't need to rush through life to assert dominance. Walk slower, speak less, command more. You have a choice. Move like panic or move like power. Talk like noise or talk like authority. Act like reaction or act like mastery. Speed is panic. Calm is power. Every step you take deliberately is a vote for authority. Every word you speak intentionally is a vote for influence. Every pause you honor is a vote for self-command. That's the key. Practice daily. Slow your pace. Measure your words. Hold space with your presence. Notice how people respond. Notice the energy shift. Notice the subtle, undeniable authority rising around you. You have a choice. Hurry or lead. Noise or influence. Panic or power. Walk slower. Speak less. Command everything. And as you master this, you prepare for the final integration, the unstoppable, unshakable authority that comes when decision, discipline, silence, presence, self-trust, and deliberate action.
Likability is not leadership. Most people confuse being liked with being effective. Most people bend, please, and apologize for fear of disapproval. Most people chase smiles, nods, and agreement instead of focusing on results. Liked fades. Authority remains. Say it again. Liked fades. authority remains. You have a choice. You can try to be liked by everyone, or you can focus on doing what is necessary. You can focus on holding standards, enforcing discipline, and projecting authority. That's the key. Here's the truth most people refuse to accept. If your decisions, your principles, and your actions are dictated by the desire for approval, you are handing your power to others. You are allowing them to define your worth. You are surrendering control over your life. Liked fades, authority remains. True leaders are not popular. They are respected. They are followed. They are trusted. Respect outlives approval. You have a choice. Do you want to be liked in the short term or respected in the long term? Most people want both. They want approval and authority at the same time. That is impossible. Leadership requires difficult choices. Leadership requires discipline. Leadership requires saying no when everyone wants you to say yes. Leadership requires enforcing rules you don't negotiate. Liked fades, authority remains. Here's a practical reality check. You cannot control what others think. You cannot manufacture respect through charm. You cannot buy influence through friendliness. But you can control your actions. You can enforce your boundaries. You can demonstrate competence, clarity, and conviction. That's the key. When people try to make you likable, they test your boundaries. They push for approval. They seek weakness. Do not negotiate. Do not apologize unnecessarily. Do not justify your actions. Liked fades. Authority remains. Here's a behavioral strategy. Step 1. Identify situations where you are bending to be liked. Step 2. Pause before responding. Step 3. Act according to your principles, not to win approval. Every time you honor this principle, your internal authority grows. Every time you enforce discipline over popularity, your influence compounds. Every time you accept that being disliked is acceptable, your confidence solidifies. You have a choice. Most people avoid confrontation to remain liked. Extraordinary people embrace confrontation to remain consistent. They understand that approval is fleeting, consistency is permanent. Liked fades, authority remains. Let's examine social dynamics. When someone challenges you, most people over-explain. They rationalize, they justify, they apologize. Not you. You act with clarity. You respond with calm. You enforce standards without apology. People may dislike you initially. They may resist. They may push back. That is irrelevant. What matters is authority. What matters is respect. What matters is adherence to principles. Liked fades, authority remains. You have a choice. You can chase approval, or you can command influence. You can adjust to please others, or you can act with integrity. You can fear rejection, or you can embrace your unshakable standard. That's the key. Here's the final drill. Whenever you face social pressure, pause. Ask yourself, am I acting for approval or for authority? Act decisively in alignment with principle, regardless of approval. Liked fades, authority remains. Here's the deeper insight. The stronger your internal authority, the less you need external validation. The more you act consistently with your standards, the less the opinions of others matter. The more you enforce discipline over popularity, the more unshakable your presence becomes. You have a choice. You can bend to please, or you can stand to lead. You can compromise to be liked, or you can enforce your standard. You can chase approval,
or you can embody authority. Liked fades, authority remains. Every time you accept that you don't need to be liked, you reclaim power. Every time you act according to principle over preference, you reclaim authority. Every time you prioritize respect over popularity, you reclaim your destiny. That's the key. Now let's integrate this with everything you've learned. You've learned to decide. You've learned to embody authority. You've learned to stop chasing validation. You've learned to command with silence. You've learned emotional control. You've learned to stop explaining yourself. You've learned to set boundaries. You've learned to detach from outcomes. You've learned the power of unreactive presence. You've learned to build authority in solitude. You've learned to move first, letting fear follow. You've learned to walk slower, speak less, and project calm. Now add this. You don't need to be liked. Liked fades, authority remains. And when you integrate all these principles, you achieve the ultimate transformation. Unshakable self-command, unbreakable confidence, irresistible presence, authority that cannot be questioned. You have a choice. Seek applause or command respect. Seek popularity or enforce discipline. Seek approval or embody authority. Liked fades, authority remains. That's the final truth of leadership. And with that, you are ready for the ultimate synthesis.
How you enter a room sets the hierarchy. Say it again. How you enter a room sets the hierarchy. Most people walk into spaces without awareness. They follow the crowd. They shrink into corners. They wait for permission to take up space. That is weakness. That is invisibility. That is surrendering authority before it's even tested. You don't wait for energy. You bring it. Say it again. You don't wait for energy. You bring it. You have a choice. You can drift into every situation, hoping to be noticed, or you can step in deliberately, commanding attention without saying a word. You can define the energy of the room instead of letting the room define you. That's the key. Here's the truth few understand. People subconsciously assign rank in the first few seconds. Posture, pace, gaze, and calm are evaluated immediately. If you hesitate, slouch, or look unsure, the room assigns you a low status. If you walk in deliberately, shoulders back, pace controlled, eyes aware, you claim authority before opening your mouth. You don't wait for energy, you bring it. Presence defines rank. Every step you take, every gesture you make, every glance you give communicates power. You communicate confidence, clarity, and unshakable control. Even silence speaks volumes. You have a choice. You can allow the room to dictate your energy, or you can dictate the energy of the room. That's the key. Here's a practical strategy. Step 1. Enter consciously. Take a breath. Center yourself. Decide the role you will play before anyone speaks. Step 2. Move deliberately. Every step is measured. Every gesture has intent. Every movement exudes calm authority. Step 3. Observe, don't react. Scan the room. Identify energy, tension, and dynamics. Adjust your presence to assert influence, not to please. You don't wait for energy. You bring it. Let's examine typical behavior. Most people mimic the mood of a room. They laugh too loudly. They adjust their posture. They speak to gain acceptance. That is reaction. That is weakness. That is giving away authority. Presence is proactive. Presence is deliberate. Presence is command. You have a choice. You can blend in or stand out. You can mirror the room or lead it. You can wait for influence or generate it. That's the key. Here's a practical strategy. Every entrance is a statement.
Decide how you want to be perceived before you step in. Exude calm authority, slow steps, open posture, confident gaze. Own your attention. Don't shrink, don't apologize, don't over-explain. You don't wait for energy, you bring it. Every room you enter becomes a stage. Every interaction becomes a demonstration of presence. Every pause, glance, and movement communicates control. You have a choice. You can blend with chaos, or you can project order. You can follow momentum, or you can set the rhythm. Presence defines rank. Here's the deeper truth. Energy is contagious. Confidence spreads. Calm authority uplifts. Fear, hesitation, and uncertainty degrade. If you bring clarity and calm, others unconsciously adjust to you. If you bring composure, others defer. If you bring authority, others follow even before a word is spoken. You don't wait for energy, you bring it. Let's examine real-world application. In meetings, speak with intent, move with intent, sit with composure, observe before reacting. In social gatherings, enter with awareness, scan the room without panic, project calm, measured presence. In conflict, step forward deliberately. Do not mirror anger. Do not react emotionally. Your presence alone asserts dominance. You have a choice. Most people wait for permission to lead. Most people wait for the room to accept them. Most people blend, defer, and follow. Not you. You set the tone. You assert presence. You own every space you enter. You don't wait for energy. You bring it. Here's the ultimate lesson. Authority is as much about how you occupy space as it is about what you say. Energy precedes words. Presence precedes influence. Control precedes respect. You have a choice. Shrink, blend, and wait, or step in with deliberate authority. Mirror the room or define it. React to energy or generate it. Presence defines rank. Every entrance you make is a vote for authority. Every deliberate step you take is a vote for respect. Every measured gesture is a vote for influence. That's the key. Now integrate this with everything else you've learned. Decide decisively. Command authority internally. Detach from validation. Master silence. Control emotion. Stop explaining yourself. Set boundaries. Detach from outcomes. Walk slower. Speak less. Move first. Trust yourself. Be willing to be disliked. And now, own the space you enter. You have a choice. You can enter timidly and surrender influence, or you can enter deliberately and command presence. You don't wait for energy, you bring it. Presence defines rank. Presence is authority. Presence is mastery.
People manipulate through emotional bait. Say it again. People manipulate through emotional bait. Every argument, every criticism, every provocation. Many fall for it. They react instantly. They give away power. No hook, no control. Say it again. No hook, no control. You have a choice. You can bite every bait tossed at you, or you can remain unreactive. You can decide that no one controls your mind but you. That's the key. Here's the truth most people ignore. Manipulation relies on reaction. Anger, guilt, embarrassment, and fear are hooks. As soon as you respond, you hand over authority. You enter someone else's game. No hook, no control. If you stay calm, you break their system. If you detach, you nullify influence. If you control your emotions, you reclaim power. You have a choice. Most people think reacting is inevitable. Most people think emotion is automatic. Most people think manipulation is unavoidable. Wrong. Your mind is your fortress.
Your emotions are under your command. Your reaction is a decision. No hook, no control. Here's how people try to manipulate you. Guilt. You should feel this way. Shame. You are wrong for thinking that. Fear. If you don't act, consequences follow. Flattery. You are special, now do this. All of it is bait. All of it is a trap. All of it is designed to make you react. No hook, no control. Here's what to do. Step 1. Recognize the hook. Pause. Label the emotion. Decide before responding. Step 2. Detach internally. Breathe. Observe. Do not react immediately. Do not engage emotionally. Step 3. Respond deliberately. Answer facts, not emotion. Act on principle, not impulse. Maintain authority by refusing manipulation. You have a choice. Every reaction strengthens them. Every pause strengthens you. Every deliberate action reinforces your internal authority. No hook, no control. Here's a real-world example. Someone criticizes your work aggressively. Most people lash out, justify, or crumble. They hand over control instantly. Not you. You pause. You breathe. You respond only with fact and measured calm. The bait loses power. The manipulator loses control. You remain unshaken. No hook, no control. Let's analyze social interactions further. Emotional triggers exist everywhere. In business negotiations, in personal relationships, in public confrontations. People test boundaries. People probe reactions. People attempt to pull you into their chaos. You have a choice. You can fall for every hook, or you can remain untouchable. You can react impulsively, or you can respond strategically. You can surrender authority, or you can enforce it. That's the key. Here's a behavioral exercise. Identify the last 3 times someone made you angry, scared, or guilty. Ask, was this a hook? Replay the scenario mentally. Practice responding without emotion. Observe the power you gain by refusing the bait. No hook, no control. Here's the ultimate lesson. Your power is not in others' compliance. Your power is in your reaction. Your power is in maintaining emotional sovereignty. You have a choice. React to chaos or master it. React to manipulation or neutralize it. React to fear or act with clarity. No hook, no control. When you internalize this, everything else aligns. Decisions become deliberate. Authority becomes felt. Validation becomes irrelevant. Silence becomes power. Boundaries become unbreakable. Presence becomes magnetic. Fear loses grip. You have a choice. You can let emotions dictate your life, or you can dictate them. You can allow hooks to control you, or you can remove every hook. You can surrender power to every provocateur, or you can remain unshakable. No hook, no control. Repeat this to yourself until it sinks in. No hook, no control. No hook, no control. No hook, no control. This is the discipline of inner authority. This is the mastery of self-command. This is the path to unreactive dominance in every room, every interaction, every challenge. You have a choice. Accept manipulation or reject it. React emotionally or respond deliberately. Give away control or own it completely. No hook, no control. And as you integrate this, you are ready for the ultimate synthesis.
Every principle learned, every strategy mastered, every discipline practiced, culminates in one unstoppable force, the authority that cannot be shaken. You have a choice. Will you remain at the mercy of emotion and manipulation, or will you step into full internal command? No hook, no control.
Chaos comes from inconsistency. Every day you act without structure. Every day you break promises to yourself. Every day you allow impulse to dictate your choices. That is the root of disorder. That is why so many people feel powerless. That is why life feels chaotic even when nothing external has changed. Predictable discipline creates unpredictable results. Say it again. Predictable discipline creates unpredictable results. You have a choice. You can drift from one day to the next. You can react to external events. Or you can build your inner rhythm. You can structure your habits, your actions, and your responses. You can become predictable to yourself. That's the key. Here's the truth most people overlook. Power comes from internal consistency. Authority is rooted in predictable self-command. Respect, first from yourself, then from others, is built through reliable behavior. Predictable discipline creates unpredictable results. Here's an example. A leader shows up every day at 6 a.m. He follows the same process. He prioritizes his principles before chaos arrives. He is predictable to himself. He doesn't waver with mood. He doesn't compromise under pressure. Result? People respect him. People follow him. Influence becomes effortless. You have a choice. Most people wait for motivation. Most people chase feelings. Most people think discipline is optional. Wrong. Predictability is not about rigid obedience to rules. It's about self-alignment. It's about being consistent in principle, focus, and action. Chaos comes from inconsistency. Consistency builds self-respect. Here's how to practice it. Step 1. Audit your daily habits. Identify where inconsistency rules. Identify where impulsive behavior disrupts progress. Step 2. Design predictable routines. Wake, work, reflect, move, and act on schedule. Follow rituals that reinforce your discipline. Check in with yourself daily. Step 3. Honor your promises to yourself. Even small commitments matter. Every time you break your word, authority erodes. Every time you keep your word, power strengthens. Predictable discipline creates unpredictable results. Here's a deeper principle. People underestimate the psychological impact of being predictable to themselves. When you trust yourself, others notice. When your behavior is consistent, you develop unshakable confidence. When your actions align with your word, influence becomes effortless. You have a choice. You can be erratic, unreliable, and reactive, or you can be steady, intentional, and deliberate. You can let the chaos dictate your day, or you can dictate it yourself. That's the key. Let's examine real-world scenarios. In business, a manager who is consistent earns respect. A manager who changes decisions daily breeds confusion. In relationships, a person who follows through on promises builds trust. A person who fluctuates in moods and words erodes connection. In personal growth, a disciplined individual who follows through on daily habits compounds progress. A scattered individual achieves little despite occasional bursts of effort. Predictable discipline creates unpredictable results. Here's a behavioral drill. Identify 3 areas where inconsistency costs you control or respect.
Design a routine or process to govern these areas. Commit to practicing these routines daily without exception. Observe how self-respect and influence grow. You have a choice. Most people act in the moment. Extraordinary people act in alignment with principle. Most people let mood dictate action. Extraordinary people let discipline dictate results. Consistency builds self-respect. Consistency builds authority. Consistency builds internal power that no external force can shake. Predictable discipline creates unpredictable results. Here's a psychological insight. When your actions are consistent, your mind becomes stable. Your confidence grows. Your decisiveness sharpens. Your presence strengthens. When your mind is stable, external chaos cannot destabilize you. When your presence is strong, others defer unconsciously. When your confidence is absolute, influence becomes effortless. You have a choice. Remain erratic to yourself, and life controls you. Become predictable to yourself, and you control life. React impulsively, and authority slips away. Act deliberately, and power consolidates. That's the key. Now, let's integrate this with everything you've learned so far. Decide decisively. Embody authority. Stop seeking validation. Command with silence. Control emotions. Stop explaining yourself. Set unbreakable boundaries. Detach from outcomes. Walk slower. Speak less. Move first. Trust yourself. Accept being disliked. Own the space you enter. Remove emotional hooks. And now, be predictable to yourself. You have a choice. You can drift with chaos, or you can create your own rhythm. You can give in to impulse, or you can enforce self-command. You can surrender authority to circumstance, or you can consolidate it within. Predictable discipline creates unpredictable results. Every time you honor your word, your influence grows. Every time you act consistently, your internal authority strengthens. Every time you master your habits, your life becomes unshakable. You have a choice. Act with consistency or react to chaos. Prioritize discipline or chase fleeting motivation. Forge self-respect or surrender it to whim. Predictable discipline creates unpredictable results.
Authority begins with self-command. Say it again. Authority begins with self-command. If you cannot lead yourself, you cannot lead others. No team, no audience, no relationship can follow someone who is internally scattered. Influence without self-mastery is a facade. Self-leadership precedes influence. You have a choice. You can chase external validation, you can react to every circumstance, or you can command yourself first. You can align your thoughts, actions, and emotions before expecting anyone else to follow. That's the key. Here's the truth most people ignore. Leaders who fail internally are inconsistent externally. They make promises they cannot keep. They react impulsively. They project chaos. Self-leadership precedes influence. Discipline is the foundation of authority. Every promise kept to yourself builds internal power. Every controlled reaction strengthens credibility. Every aligned choice cements your personal hierarchy. You have a choice. Most people wait for clarity from outside. Most people follow trends and reactions. Most people hope circumstances will guide their actions. Wrong. Lead yourself first. Own your mornings, master your decisions, control your impulses. That is where authority starts. Here's a practical breakdown. Step 1. Clarify your principles. Know what you will and will not tolerate. Define your values before anyone tests them. Step 2. Set your standards. Create non-negotiables for behavior, habits, and interactions. Honor them relentlessly. Step 3. Act decisively. When you act in alignment with your principles, you demonstrate authority. When you hesitate or waver, you invite doubt. When you lead yourself consistently, others follow naturally. Self-leadership precedes influence. Consider the difference between reactive and proactive leaders. Reactive follows moods, not principles. Seeks approval constantly. Lets external forces dictate decisions. Proactive acts from internal command. Prioritizes self-mastery. Controls response before circumstance acts. You have a choice. Authority is not given. Authority is earned through consistent self-leadership. Without it, influence collapses at the first challenge. Here's a behavioral drill. Identify one area where you fail to lead yourself consistently. Create a small, actionable plan to enforce discipline in that area. Execute daily without exception. Observe how self-command amplifies influence in every interaction. Self-leadership precedes influence. Let's examine daily life applications. In work, lead your schedule before leading the team. Decide priorities before responding to crises. Set standards before evaluating others. In relationships, lead your emotions before expecting respect. Control reactions before demanding behavior. Be consistent before expecting loyalty. In personal growth, lead your habits before measuring progress. Hold yourself accountable before blaming circumstance. Trust your process before seeking validation. You have a choice. Most people think leadership is external. Extraordinary people know it begins internally. Most people look for followers to legitimize them. Extraordinary people legitimize themselves first. That's the key. When you lead yourself, decisions become decisive. Presence becomes magnetic. Confidence becomes unshakable. Authority becomes real. You have a choice. Neglect self-command and you become a puppet of circumstance. Prioritize self-leadership and you become the source of authority. Self-leadership precedes influence. Here's the ultimate truth. You cannot control others without controlling yourself. You cannot demand respect without respecting your own commitments. You cannot inspire action without first inspiring yourself. You have a choice. React to every external pull or lead yourself deliberately. Give your energy away or invest it in internal command. Follow every mood or master your principles. That's the key. Every principle you've learned so far converges here. Decide decisively. Embody authority. Stop seeking validation. Command with silence. Control emotion. Stop explaining yourself. Set unbreakable boundaries. Detach from outcomes. Walk slower. Speak less. Move first. Trust yourself. Accept being disliked. Own the space you enter. Remove emotional hooks. Be predictable to yourself. And now, lead yourself before anyone else. You have a choice. Do you surrender to chaos or do you command yourself first? Do you react to fear, doubt, and distraction, or do you act decisively from principle? Do you wait for others to validate you, or do you validate yourself through consistent self-leadership? Self-leadership precedes influence. Every promise kept to yourself strengthens your authority. Every habit reinforced builds resilience.
Every controlled reaction amplifies your presence. You have a choice. Lead yourself and the world follows. Lead yourself and influence becomes effortless. Lead yourself and authority becomes unshakable. That's the key. And with this chapter, you are ready to integrate every lesson into the ultimate synthesis, the authority that cannot be shaken. You have a choice. Will you lead yourself first or let the world lead you? Will you master your internal command or surrender it to circumstance? Will you enforce discipline or continue reacting? Self-leadership precedes influence, and that is the foundation of unshakable authority. Now step forward, lead yourself, influence others, command your life. You have a choice, and that choice defines everything.
Expect resistance when authority rises. Expect resistance when authority rises. Whenever you step into certainty, the world pushes back. Whenever you claim internal command, people unconsciously challenge it. Whenever you act from principle, chaos will attempt to interrupt. That is the test. That is the proof. Pressure is proof you've changed. Repeat it. Pressure is proof you've changed. You have a choice. You can retreat from resistance. You can adjust yourself to appease the world, or you can stand firm. You can remain unshaken. You can let the test validate your authority instead of undermine it. That's the key. Here's the truth most people ignore. Resistance is not punishment. Resistance is feedback. Resistance is a mirror showing whether your authority is real or fragile. Pressure is proof you've changed. Let's break it down. When you act with certainty, some will doubt you. Some will challenge you. Some will attempt to disrupt your momentum. This is normal. This is expected. This is unavoidable. The question is not whether resistance comes. It will. The question is how you respond. Do you react emotionally? Do you apologize for being strong? Do you bend to please others? Or do you reinforce your discipline? Do you remain calm, decisive, and aligned? Do you let your certainty shine despite opposition? Pressure is proof you've changed. Here's an example from real life. A new manager implements a system to increase efficiency. Employees resist. They grumble. They test boundaries. Some hope the old chaos returns. The manager remains firm. He does not argue. He does not explain excessively. He does not seek approval. Instead, he demonstrates results through consistent action. Authority grows. Influence solidifies. Pressure is proof you've changed. You have a choice. You can let resistance erode your confidence, or you can let resistance confirm your growth. Remember this. The world tests the certain. The weak crumble under the first challenge. The disciplined rise with resilience. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Anticipate tests. Know that authority invites resistance. Prepare mentally before challenges arrive. Step 2. Respond deliberately. Do not react impulsively. Do not justify yourself unnecessarily. Do not let ego dictate action. Step 3. Demonstrate consistency. Your actions, not your words, prove authority. Stand firm.
Repeat your principles. Execute relentlessly. Pressure is proof you've changed. Here's the psychological insight. Resistance triggers fear in the unprepared. Resistance triggers doubt in the uncertain. Resistance confirms transformation in the disciplined. You have a choice. React to pressure and you lose control. Ignore pressure and you appear aloof. Leverage pressure and you reinforce authority. That's the key. Here's how to train yourself. Recall a recent situation where your authority was challenged. Identify where you reacted unnecessarily. Identify where you maintained control. Commit to responding the same way in every future challenge. The world tests the certain. Every test is an opportunity to reinforce your internal command. Every challenge is a chance to validate your discipline. Pressure is proof you've changed. Remember, people do not resist the uncertain, they resist certainty. People do not challenge weakness, they challenge power. The moment you act decisively, calmly, and aligned, tests will appear. You have a choice. Surrender to fear, and the test becomes a trap. Stand firm, and the test becomes a confirmation. It's not about avoiding pressure. It's about mastering your response. It's not about pleasing others. It's about enforcing internal authority. Pressure is proof you've changed. Here's the final principle. Every leader you admire has faced resistance. Every pioneer has been tested. Every person of authority has been challenged. The difference is simple. The weak bend. The disciplined stand. You have a choice. Cower under resistance or use it as proof. React emotionally or respond strategically. Doubt yourself or trust your internal command. Pressure is proof you've changed. Integrate this lesson with everything you've learned. Decide decisively. Embody authority. Stop seeking validation. Command with silence. Control emotions. Stop explaining yourself. Set unbreakable boundaries. Detach from outcomes. Walk slower. Speak less. Move first. Trust yourself. Accept being disliked. Own the space you enter. Remove emotional hooks. Be predictable to yourself. Lead yourself before anyone else. And now, let the world test you. You have a choice. Will you crumble or will you rise? Will you react or will you demonstrate mastery? Will you fear resistance or will you let it confirm your authority? Pressure is proof you've changed. Stand firm, remain calm, execute relentlessly, and let every challenge validate your internal authority. You have a choice. The world tests the certain. The disciplined respond with mastery. The result? Authority that cannot be shaken. That's the key. You are ready for the final synthesis, the ultimate integration of all principles into the authority that cannot be shaken. Every lesson now converges. Every strategy now compounds. Every choice now reinforces unshakable internal command. And that is where true power begins. You have a choice. Step forward. Stand firm. Command your life. Pressure is proof you've changed.
No more outsourcing decisions. Stop looking for guidance at every turn.
Stop asking for approval before taking action. Stop giving power to external voices. You are the standard now. Repeat it. You are the standard now. You have a choice. You can remain dependent on others' opinions. You can debate endlessly with yourself. Or you can claim final authority. You can make the call. You can own the consequence. You can enforce your internal command. That's the key. Here's the truth most people ignore. When you become the final authority, hesitation disappears. When you own the final call, self-doubt shrinks. When you internalize command, external validation becomes irrelevant. You are the standard now. Let's break it down. Stop outsourcing decisions. Every choice you make should reflect your principles. Every action should align with your internal hierarchy. When others' approval dictates your path, you surrender authority. Stop internal debate. Indecision is disguised fear. Every moment spent arguing with yourself is a vote against your power. Make the decision, execute, adjust later if necessary. Own the consequence. Authority is not theoretical, it is practical. Every decision carries responsibility. Every action demonstrates self-command. You are the standard now. Let's examine real-world examples. A leader refuses to act until everyone agrees. Decisions are delayed, opportunities lost. Team confidence falters, influence erodes. Contrast this with the leader who decides decisively. Challenges arise, yes, but momentum continues. Confidence radiates. Authority becomes undeniable. You have a choice. You can remain a participant in your own life, or you can be the final authority. That's the key. Behavioral drill. Identify one area where you hesitate or defer decisions. Make the decision immediately, without consulting others. Accept responsibility fully. Observe how clarity strengthens your presence. You are the standard now. Authority begins internally. Leadership emerges naturally. Respect follows consistency. Every principle you've learned converges here. Decide decisively. Embody authority. Stop seeking validation. Command with silence. Control emotion. Stop explaining yourself. Set unbreakable boundaries. Detach from outcomes. Walk slower. Speak less. Move first. Trust yourself. Accept being disliked. Own the space you enter. Remove emotional hooks. Be predictable to yourself. Lead yourself before anyone else. Let the world test you. Pressure is proof you've changed. And now, you are the final authority. You have a choice. Will you continue asking permission? Will you continue debating? Will you continue letting circumstances dictate action? Or will you claim the final word? Will you become the standard that others measure themselves against? Will you operate from internal command alone?
You are the standard now. This is ultimate self-mastery. No hesitation, no external dependency, no fear of judgment. Your decisions are your own. Your principles are unshakable. Your authority is undeniable. You have a choice. Most people outsource responsibility. Most people defer accountability. Most people hope someone else will provide clarity. Extraordinary people internalize command. Extraordinary people decide first. Extraordinary people own everything they are and do. You are the standard now. Here's how to practice it daily. Make 3 decisions today without consulting anyone. Commit to them fully, regardless of discomfort. Observe the effect on your confidence, influence, and presence. Repeat, daily, relentlessly. Authority is not a title. Authority is a lifestyle. Authority is enforced by decisions, not words. You have a choice. When you become the final authority, decisions become decisive. Influence becomes magnetic. Self-doubt vanishes. Internal command solidifies. You are the standard now. Let this chapter serve as the culmination of everything. Every skill you've built, every discipline you've practiced, every principle you've internalized leads here. Becoming the final authority is not optional. It is the natural outcome of mastering yourself. You have a choice. Will you remain reactive, hesitant, and dependent? Or will you take the final word in your own life? Will you lead yourself uncompromisingly? You are the standard now. Every moment you hesitate, you forfeit power. Every moment you defer, you diminish authority. Every moment you act decisively, you reinforce your command. Pressure, tests, opposition, they all confirm one truth. You are the standard now. You are the final authority. You are unshakable. And now, the ultimate integration of all lessons is complete. You have a choice. Claim it. Decide it. Own it. Lead it. You are the standard now. And no one, not circumstance, not people, not fear, can take that from you. Authority is complete. Discipline is unbroken. Command is absolute. You have a choice. And the choice is yours.
Inner authority is not loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't chase. It decides and moves. From this moment forward, stop asking, stop explaining, stop reacting. When you feel the urge to justify, stay silent. When you feel fear, move anyway. When doubt appears, choose once and stand firm. The world will test you. Let it. Because authority isn't granted, it's claimed. And the moment you stop seeking permission, you step into command. Your challenge is simple. For the next 24 hours, make decisions without apology. That's where your authority begins.